everybody, welcome back to my channel, That's Ready Homeschool. My name is Mrs. T. Today we're going to be comparing BookShark versus Build Your Library. And specifically, we're going to be looking at very similar, two very similar bundles. So we are going to be taking a look at Build Your Library Level 0. This is their Around the World level that is meant for the kindergarten year. And they recommend for ages 4 to 6. And we're going to be comparing it to BookShark, their Level A Reading with History, which is the theme of Intro to the World Cultures, and that is recommended for grades K through 2nd. So their age range is 5 through 7. So both of these programs are secular literature-based programs, and both of them have a theme of, I'll say, global presence around the world, but they're both very different. So let's go ahead and just start comparing so you can get an idea of which of these programs might be a better fit if you are researching them right now. So let's go ahead and we are going to start with who created these two pieces of curriculum. And we're going to start, for the sake of easy comparison, I'm always going to start with talking about Build Your Library first, and then we'll compare it to what BookShark does and who they are second. So Build Your Library. Build Your Library is a program that is created and maintained by a single homeschooling individual. Her name is Emily Cook, and she is a homeschooling mom who loved the idea of literature-based programs, but didn't feel like any of the programs she utilized were a good fit for her family. So she has created Build Your Library based on her experience and based on her children and using it for her children. It is, like I said, secular, and it is Charlotte Mason inspired. But the company here is mostly this individual person, and it was created originally for her family, and she has graced us by sharing it with all of us here on the internet, which is fabulous. Now let's pivot over to BookShark. Before I purchased BookShark Level A, I did research the company. I didn't remember, so when I started to do the work here for this video, so I looked it up, and I'll be darned, their company page has a 404 error, so I can't give you details. But I can say that they are based in Colorado, and it is a company. Please check out the description and the comment section. Once that error goes away, I will pin a little bit of information about their company, but the big takeaway here is it is a company with employees rather than a homeschooling parent and a homeschooling teacher. That is not to say that one is more credible than the other. It's just to say that these companies that are producing this content are different. Okay, now let's talk about price point, because price point and their pricing model, their sales model is also very different. So we're going to start again with Build Your Library. Build Your Library, you have one purchasing option. You can purchase the PDF for each level, and that is it. You cannot buy the books through Build Your Library or the consumable portions of this program. It is up to you as the parent to acquire the literature either through your library, from thrift books or local thrift book stores, from new on Amazon or Target or wherever you buy your content. It is up to you to buy the content and acquire the literature and the consumable portions. Now, BookShark, on the other hand, has a very different sales model. In fact, they don't have a digital option at all for purchasing just the instructor guide. You can buy just the instructor manual, but even just buying the instructor manual, it's printed and it does come at a higher price point of about $100. That is not how they recommend you purchasing, though. They really do recommend the default for this level is the bundle, the default bundle. This includes everything that you need, from the instructor guide to the consumable, even the markers that your child is going to need for the markable map, as well as every single piece of literature that is called out in this program. So that does come at a much higher price point. You're looking at about $450-ish for that default purchasing option. Now, BookShark does allow customization of this. So you could add on things to it, such as other subjects. Their full subject bundle, for example, for Level A is a little bit under $1,000. And if you wanted to, if you don't want to go that route, but you wanted to add in, they have like a hands-on project box that you can add on to this level. You could add that on for about $55-ish. I think it's a little under 60 if you felt so inclined. Now, let's say you don't want to buy any of the literature. So you don't want to buy that $440 and add on to that. You do have the option to buy the instructor manual, the consumable portions that are specific to this, and that's it, by adding them individually to your cart. But even doing that, you are looking to spend about $175. So as you can see, the sales model and the price point is definitely different. And let's say you're overseas and you need to have something that is digital. I can tell you right now, BookShark is not going to be the option for you because they don't have a digital option. On the flip side, if you're looking for something that you don't have to print, that you are getting physical copies, then from an ease perspective, maybe the BookShark model is a better fit for you. Like I said, very, very different. Now let's talk about the content, the subjects that are going to be covered, because even these are different. They have a lot of similarities, but they do have some uniqueness. So we'll start with Build Your Library. Build Your Library is going to be focusing on geography, literature, and it does include some poetry. It has art to it, and it also has science. It's going to be focusing on animals in this level, but ultimately it is going to be really focused on the regions. So I'm going to call this program regionally driven. It is driven by going around the globe and learning about region by region by region. Okay, now let's take a look at BookShark. BookShark does have some of the similar subjects. So it does cover geography, it covers literature and poetry as well, but it also has history and it focuses on biographies, so learning about some people. And then it also focuses on phonics. So they have a little bit of phonics that is added into this. Unlike Build Your Library, BookShark is not regionally driven. Their scope and their sequence is history driven. And I'm going to actually flip you around now, and I'm going to show you very briefly what the scope and the sequence looks like for each of these models.
Okay, here's the table of contents for Build Your Library. This is going to show you the sequence of the regions that we will be going through. So you can see it's kind of going by continent, and this is the sequence that we have here in this curriculum. And now we compare it to BookShark's sequence and scope. So you can actually see that this one is history driven. So it's going to go based on the history topic. And although we do cover geography, it is going to kind of hop around based on what you are talking about and which area. And we'll go all the way. We're going through Victorian times, World War, and then we end with kind of learning more about just the general, we'll say biomes and animals and things that you might see around the world that make the world unique.
Okay, and we're back. Let's talk a little bit about how the literature is implemented. For Build Your Library, the books that are recommended are heavily intertwined with the geography and the region. In other words, the content that you're going to be reading in this level 0 is going to support the learning of these regions. So your child is going to be reading books from the area or about the area. And that is the primary focus. There really aren't a lot of books that aren't related to the topic. So when you're going through, for example, Canada and the Arctic region, you are reading the very, very far north. It is fictional, little cute story, right? Speaking animals is not going to be something that we come across in the real world, but it is focusing in this region rather than like reading Winnie the Pooh at the same time, if that makes sense, right? Because Winnie the Pooh is not going to be based in that region. So that really does focus on exposing literature to the region that you're studying at the time. Now, the very big difference on the flip side is BookShark. BookShark has reading and history, and there's reading that supports both, but they are separate. So, for example, you are going to be reading different books and using literature to learn about a point in history, but at the same time, you will be going through read aloud that's not related at all to your point in history. So you really have two facets of this single bit of curriculum. So for example, there's a period in here where you are going to be, from a history point of view, you're going through some exploration information, while at the same time, and that's focusing a little bit on exploring in the Americas, while at the same time you're reading a book that's based in China. So it does not necessarily cross. There might be some crossover. I haven't gone through this program all the way through. This is my initial evaluation. But from what I have seen, there isn't an alignment with the read alouds to the history. So that is a very big difference between these two programs. Now let's also talk a little bit about the books themselves, because the books and the type of books that you're going to get in both programs are also different. So build your library. And actually, quick disclaimer, I counted these manually, so if I have the numbers slightly off, I apologize. It was kind of hard for me to count with identifying them sometimes. So please forgive me. Now, books. Let's talk about the total number of books recommended. For Build Your Library, the program itself calls out 40 books that you really need to have access to in order to use the program as intended. However, in addition to those 40 books, there are over 170 other book recommendations for different regions. So for example, when you're going through Canada, if you want to add to that and supplement, there's a list of other books that you could do so to add to your experience, which is pretty neat. I really, really like that about this program. Of those 40 books, 7 of those books are spines. And what I mean by that is these are going to be books that you refer to frequently. They're not a story. They are going to be used to learn a little bit more about the region. And I have an example here. This is an example of one of the spines that they use. This is called Children Just Like Me. It's from DK. And this is going to show you what a typical child might look like in different regions from around the world. So as you're going through Canada, for example, we read a little bit about one of the little girls who lives in Canada, what her house looks like, her favorite food, so on and so forth. There are 26 picture books that you are going to explore with Build Your Library. Build Your Library really focuses on the picture book exposure rather than chapter books. They still have chapter books. They in fact have 5 of them that you're going to be exploring, but mostly it is heavier on the picture books versus chapter books. It does have 2 consumable books. So these are actually sticker books that your child is going to go through, put stickers on, and it's consumable. Now let's take a look and compare to BookShark. Very, very different. BookShark requires 27 books, so it is less than Build Your Library's 40. However, this only has 2 picture books and has 18 novels and bigger read alouds. Now, some of these novels are still shorter, but they are definitely novels. They are chapter books. They are going to take a little bit of time to get through. They are not single sitting picture books that your child and you are looking at together on the couch. So very different. Again, Build Your Library is focused on more on picture books with some novels, and BookShark is the exact opposite. It's focused on novels with a couple of picture books. Now, BookShark has about 6 spines. This here is one of the main ones. We've got this children's encyclopedia, which is just chock full of pictures and is lovely, from Usborne. But here's an example of what I considered another spine. This is a picture book, but clearly it is full. It's not a story, right? It is filled with information, and you do go through this all throughout the year. So even though you're looking at these pictures, I did not count this as a picture book. I counted this as a spine. And then from a consumable perspective, BookShark does also have some consumable components, including a Create Your Calendar and a timeline book. So very different kind of literature that is going to be covered between the 2 of them, which is crazy. It is huge. All right, we are getting to the end here, but I did also want to compare the schedule. So you guys know in the homeschooling world, the glorious thing about homeschooling is you can kind of create your own schedule, you can make adjustments, but both of these programs do have recommended schedules. Build Your Library recommends 5 days a week, meant to go for 30 weeks. BookShark is a 36-week program, a 4-day-a-week schedule by default. So again, of course, you can adjust this, but there is definitely a difference there as well. 30 weeks and 5 days versus 36 and 4 days. That equates to Build Your Library is 150 days of planned content, and BookShark is 144 planned days of content. All right, let's go ahead. I'm going to share with you guys a sample schedule from a random week. I'll try to do one that's in a similar region, but I'm going to flip you around and let's go ahead and briefly show you what a week looks like in each resource.
Okay, so we're starting with Build Your Library, and we're taking a look here at week 22. At the beginning of every week, you are going to get this spread here. It's a normal table that is going to list the resources that you need to support the week. So you can see it's listed by the day here, and then on the left-hand side, it's separated by subject. So in geography, for example, you're going to need these 2 spines. You need your activity book, your recipe book, and so on and so forth. It looks like this week we don't have an art activity, but art would be here as well if you need an art activity. And then following this, you are going to be getting a daily breakdown. So for example, here on day 4, it's going to be showing you the geography reading you're doing and an activity. We have our literature, and we sometimes get discussion questions here. In this case, we're doing a literature activity where we're going to an external website and learning more about lions. Here we go, we have our book that we are reading about critters, and here is a recommended video. So here you would also typically see that recipe breakdown, our map activities such as coloring in different countries. You have art projects, additional readings, additional books, and so on and so forth. Now let's go ahead and compare it to BookShark. So BookShark is very similar. This is week 23. At the beginning of every week, you're going to get, again, a table, and this is organized very similarly. So we've got our days here on the top, and we have our subjects and the resources that you're going to be doing broken down by day. Just like Build Your Library, BookShark then has a day-by-day breakdown, but their breakdown is more condensed. So on day 4, for example, it tells you what you're going to be doing, and you have a discussion question for your history. For your read aloud, you're going to be getting vocabulary. This is very good about getting different vocabulary and some more discussion. Our Mother Goose, and we have a developmental activity here that's outlined. Now I want to note that when you get into the program here, you'll also get a schedule for your readers. So in this week, we are going to be doing Fun Tales number 14, which is Jill's Pups. And it's going to be introducing the new letter of the week. You'll get some discussion questions that follow up behind this reader, and you'll get some guidance as the teacher.
All right, you're back. So that was it for this schedule. The last thing I really just want to touch base on is what kind of content there is. So besides reading is obvious, right? It's a literature-based program. What kind of stuff do you do in each program? In Build Your Library, it comes with discussion questions to go along with reading. It comes with cooking projects, craft projects. You're going to be doing basic map work, but not marking maps. So you'll be pretty much coloring different regions and things like that. You are going to be creating a passport as you go around the different regions. You are also going to be having an animal profile project where your child is going to be researching an animal and presenting something to you as the parent near the end of the program. And then on top of that, it also has some additional recommended videos and things that the creator has kind of curated to support the different topics. So you get a good variety of different information and different things for your child to do. All right, let's look at BookShark. BookShark, similarly, it does come up with a lot of discussion questions. Your child is also going to be doing some individual reading, so they will be doing the reading. It's not just you reading to the child, so it does have a little bit of that phonics component in there. We do have some hands-on. The base here does have some recommended things to do, some crafts, but they do also have an additional hands-on project kit that you can buy. We did not, but that will expand that hands-on portion of the program if you feel so, so inclined. And then there are some things that you're going to be coloring. You're going to be doing your timeline work, which to me is a big pro from the BookShark point of view, is getting everything on this timeline. And then you do get map work. And the big difference between the map work from the last program is that BookShark's map work is going to be on a markable map. You're going to be identifying where things are in a bigger picture, and you are going to be actually like writing on the map and kind of exploring a larger map as opposed to like coloring the map and doing basic map, but map work. All right, last thing. Maybe you're looking at this and you're like, I have no desire to do either of these programs, but I'm still interested in literature-based programs. I will say there are quite a few out here. There is Sunlight, there is Beautiful Feet, Torchlight. There are so many different literature-based programs out there, and I will say all of them are different. Some are secular, some are Christian-based, some are chapter book-based, some are picture book-based. It really depends on what you're looking for. Another thing that you can consider, because literature-based programs are kind of curated already for you, if you're somebody who's like just not fully satisfied, you could always take a look at the book list from these different programs and take what you want, and you can teach what you want to teach as well. The last thing I want to point out is these programs, even though they're so different, I do think they could have benefited from 2 additional spines, and this is what we have supplemented with Build Your Library, and we will continue to supplement BookShark with. So they are this book from DK. This is People and Places. We've used this book and we absolutely love it. I feel like this has enriched the Build Your Library program, and we will be circling back to it while we go through BookShark. This is really focusing, like the book suggests, on the people that live in different places. So when we cover each country, each region, we've been kind of taking a sidebar and exploring that country a little bit more in a little bit more depth. The other one that we have been supplementing with is Countries of the World. This is also by DK. I love DK books. This is a higher level overview, but I liked this because a lot of these countries have a spread, either part of a page or 2 full pages, and it is just filled with some really nice graphics that kind of highlight some of the uniqueness in one spot from each region. And that one's a little bit more similar to the Atlas, for example, in Build Your Library, but I will say in like BookShark, I think something like that will be really beneficial. It doesn't really have a spread like that as you're going through BookShark. And that is it, you guys. I am going to leave it there. This is already a really long video. I hope you found this to be helpful, and I will talk to you guys soon. You have a good one. Bye-bye.